So good morning, I'm Amy D'Agostino, and I am here to talk to you about the NRC's innovation program. What I've really decided to do today is kind of give you an overview of the program, talk to you about our first year in operation, and then really talk to you about some of the lessons learned that we have. And then certainly we can open it up for questions for anything you may want to ask. So with that, we're going to get started with our cool little graphic here that shows our Innovate Nrc 2.0 program. It's going to go again there. All right, so first I want to take you through our innovation journey at the NRC. And so you can see here our innovation journey really occurred in 3 stages. We started our formal journey in 2017. This is what we call stage 1 in the journey, which we called Innovate Nrc 1.0. And in this stage, 16 office-specific innovation panels. So each one of our major offices in the NRC had an innovation panel were set up along with other innovation efforts that started across the agency. So we started to run that and had just about a year's runtime and started to notice there were some issues, some inefficiencies, deficiencies with the program that we had. One was that we had these 16 different office panels, and they were all using different technology to kind of share ideas. Some were using SharePoint, some were using email. There was no way for one panel to talk to another panel. So it just made it very kind of inefficient overall. We also had some problems around the fact that we didn't have dedicated resources. A lot of people were doing it sort of as extra duties. And so we were struggling a lot when it came to, okay, well, how do we these really great ideas to implementation? There weren't clear implementation paths. And so this is really what led us to stage 2 of the journey. In stage 2, we decided that we wanted to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our innovation efforts. And so we did benchmarking of other agencies. We did research in academic and applied literature, and we gathered the lessons learned from our own stage 1. And so from stage 2, we then said, okay, we think we've learned a lot here. And from stage 2, we developed a best-in-class innovation program that, sort of a blueprint for a best-in-class innovation program. We said, here's the program that we want to have. And then, of course, we had to do all the pieces where we gathered buy from our stakeholders. And in stage 3, we actually moved to implementation of the model created in stage 2, better known as Innovate Nrc 2.0. And so basically in June 28, 2020, we launched Innovate Nrc 2.0. So you can see here on the current slide that what we really have in our program is 4 different components. The components are the platform, which is Idea Scale, our rewards and recognition piece, our integrated community, and the tools. And so let me take you. So here you can kind of see that this lays out the 4 pieces that we just highlighted in the last slide. So in terms of our community, what we did was those original 16 panels that I talked about, we took the people that were already on those panels and we said, hey, we're changing what we're doing and we need to really integrate our community. And we want you to be part of it because you guys are the ones with the most experience in innovation. And what we did was create these new roles. We created the ambassador role, the creative strategist role, the champion role, and the expert role. And so here you can see what those look like. So we took these original idea panels up here in the left-hand corner, and the expert role are the people that we can reach out to when we have an idea on a particular topic, and we can say, hey, is this something that would work? Is this something that's already been done? We also have the ambassador role. These are our kind of boots on the ground folks that are in every office that basically are driving our marketing for challenge campaigns at a local level. Then we have our coaches. They are going to be our innovation guides. They're the people that help challenge owners craft their challenge statements and really help them, move their challenge campaign forward. We also have our creative strategists. So our ambassadors are the ones who are kind of handing out our marketing material, and our creative strategists are the ones really developing our marketing and communication. Then, of course, we have our innovators, right? The people actually participating in the challenge competitions and submitting ideas. And then we have our champions, which we can kind of consider our management level folks who are invested in the program. So that's our community piece. Then the platform piece is sort of self-explanatory. Then we've got the tools. So within Idea Scale, what we've decided to do is have our crowdsourcing challenge campaigns. Then we have sort of our innovation, what we call our innovation celebrate and management piece. And that includes our success gallery. So that's where you're going to enter the innovations that have already been so things that have already been implemented. But we actually found out during the first year that having just the success gallery wasn't going to work, because we also needed to tell people about innovations that were in progress. And this helped a couple of things. One, it stopped people from repeatedly suggesting the same ideas to the suggestion box for things that were already underway. It let them know that, that the wheels were already in motion on certain ideas. It also allowed for earlier collaboration when someone, when another office knew that something was underway. And then we have our Innovators Hall of Fame. So these are the people that win crowdsourcing challenges, that maybe had a success in the success gallery. And now we're highlighting the person rather than just the innovation itself. And then finally, we have our sort of always on campaign, as Idea Scale would term it, and we call it the suggestion box. It's for general idea gathering. And all of our innovation approaches and tools are managed through the Idea platform, the Idea Scale platform. And so then the final piece of our program, and we're going to talk about this piece more, is the celebrating innovation piece. And this is where we get into the rewards and recognition that was discussed in the video. And I'll talk about this more, but the behaviors that we chose to reward and recognize were engagement behaviors, achievements, and exceptional contributions. So let me get you past there. Okay, so what does that mean? So what we did in our rewards and recognition program was, first, let me start by saying, sometimes I think in these webinars, the most that we can learn from each other is like, okay, but how did you do that? In this case, we worked with our legal folks, our human resources folks, and the point of contact for each office that led up innovation for that office. We worked with all of them in order to get actual guidance in a management directive to include innovation awards and recognition in the management directive. And so you can see in the first bullet here, awards and recognition guidance. So, we documented it, right? We made sure that it was captured in agency documentation so that it had a paper trail and it wasn't just sort of something we said we were going to do. And so we actually added a new subsection for innovation awards and recognition. And again, we looked at 3 categories of behaviors. Those included engagement behaviors, so things like contributing ideas, voting, and commenting. And for those types of behaviors, we said, well, these really need to be recognition, things that we can recognize but can't necessarily reward. And some of that had to do with the fact that from a legal standpoint, we couldn't reward for just engaging in something. There actually had to be sort of an achievement associated with it. So we found other ways to do it. We did it through, sort of shout outs in various different offices. They will put it on their office website. We've done it through our Innovate Nrc newsletter, where we've called out people who have contributed a really great or a really suggestion box idea. And then obviously also through the kudos option within Idea Scale. And our administrators of the system, we really get in there and try to use the kudos quite a bit so that they know people are checking things out, and we're thanking people and recognizing them for submitting ideas. Then we have the other 2 categories of behavior, and these are the achievements and exceptional contributions. So achievements are going to be things like implemented suggestion box ideas. So you suggest something and it actually goes through to implementation. You're going to get some type of either non-monetary, monetary, or time off award for something like that. And in kind of the lower right-hand corner, you can see some of our non-monetary awards. We've got a mug and we've got a coin and a few different things. And then we have our exceptional contributions. We actually just finished our first our first success of the year, which is like an agency-wide innovation vote. So basically all of the successes that were entered into the success gallery, people could go in and vote for their favorite or favorites. They had 10 tokens that they could distribute. And then there was a top 5 that came out of that. And then the second stage of the campaign, we actually have an awards board within the NRC, and we had those folks vote of the top 5, which they thought should get the success of the year. And that seemed to work really well. And so, the important thing is work with the right people and make sure that you kind of get this written into a document where it's going to, be long lasting. And it's not going to just sort of be something that we say we're going to do, but then we don't do it. All right, so those are kind of all the pieces of our program. So like I mentioned to you, we've been running for about a year. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about is lessons being learned. And I didn't say lessons learned here because I don't know that we've completely learned them yet. So they're being learned. One of the things that we've learned is the roles that I presented to you before. We have very clear ideas of what those roles should be. I will tell you that not all of the roles have panned out the way we thought. The ambassador role has been really strong. We've had a lot of management champions. I will tell you that our coach role and our creative strategist role, we are still working to tweak those, because what we're finding is that we have two FTE, so 2 full-time employee equivalents to manage the NRC, the innovation program. And, what we found from that is we end up really being the ones that work with the challenge owners and often create the marketing material. And that's just because we're full-time. We actually have the time to devote to it. But part of that is because we've been just understanding ourselves sort of what best practices are for, challenge questions and things like that. And so, but what we'd like to do is really get back to training up other people to be coaches and creative strategists, because we really feel that, when you train somebody, then they can go out and kind of spread that innovative spirit rather than it always sort of being the same people. And so that's something that we need to revisit. We also found out that you can never give too much training in education. So no matter how many times you get out there, no matter how many videos you put out, no matter how many webinars you do, there's always going to be somebody that's like, I don't know how to use, what is idea scale? How do I even get to it? What do I need to do? And, it's like one of those things, like if you didn't go to your email every day, right? Would you remember how to use your email when you needed to use it? Maybe, maybe not, right? And so a couple of things, you want to just constantly be giving training opportunities and education opportunities. So that means going out to, for us, like local level meetings, rather than big agency wide meetings, we go out to branch level meetings, office level meetings. Other things we do, we're offering little sort of what we're calling lunch bite training sessions, just quick 15-minute training sessions on a specific aspect. So, how to become a challenge owner, how to submit a success story. And those seem to be pretty well attended. The other thing that we've learned is that you need continuous improvement. So something I want to show you here. And Jessica, just let me know if you can't see the screen when it comes up. Can you see that?
I'm seeing the community, yep. nrc.scaleup.com.
So in the original video, you probably saw that this looked very different up front, right? It had 3 buttons and it was like share an idea. And we've iterated our homepage several times. And so in this time, it was like, okay, let's just go for something really simple where you just click view ideas. Takes them to a homepage. And this is where, people asked for, so this isn't the prettiest in the world, right? And we're still working on that. But people asked for, hey, I need to know more about what I want to do. And so we kind of put in like commonly used terms and idea scale so that people could understand what it was. And then they could go right here and click into the different ideas that, or the different things that they may want to be doing within idea scale. And so, we've kind of constantly been updating and improving our interface, taking feedback from people. Part of that was actually our in progress innovation gallery. That's where someone said, well, it's great to hear everything that's been successful, but like what's in the works? I want to know what's going on across the agency. That's like, where are people innovating today, right now? What is on the way? And that also helps us decrease the amount of duplication of effort. So if I know that another office or branch is doing something, I'm not going to go then duplicate that effort. I can work with them. The other thing that we learned is hustle. So this is literally what you think it is. You got to be out there hustling every day for your program. You got to go out and say, hey, maybe instead of doing an in-person focus group, why don't you think about a challenge campaign? Or, hey, I know you just did a survey. Is there anything that you'd really like to know from one of your survey questions that would be like a follow-up that we could do a challenge campaign from? Or you want to have a conversation with the staff. Great. Well, a great way to have a conversation is we could do a flat, like what we're calling a flash challenge, and do it within a few hours. And now we've captured that entire conversation. You can have various different streams of discussions under different ideas. And now you have that for kind of knowledge management and documentation. So we've tried to come up with a lot of different use cases. And then this one I wanted to highlight, and I will tell you, this is the get to the bottom line. So one of the big questions we got, and I'm sure that all of you get, is, okay, that's great, but is innovation actually saving us any money, or is it costing us more to innovate certain things? Well, the answer is both. Sometimes innovation costs money, right? And to make things better and to see savings in the long run, sometimes you can see immediate savings with some process improvements. And so we were asked to find a way to capture and measure innovation outcomes. And so what we did was sort of take a qualitative and quantitative approach. So we asked that the innovator, when they add a success story to the success gallery, identifies the primary and secondary qualitative outcomes associated with their success. And we have these three outcomes: process improvement, enhanced decision-making, and enhancing our culture. Now you may say, well, it seems like there could be, a lot of things that happen outside of these three. Yes, that is true. But these are the three things that we've been focused on in our transformation effort. And so it aligned well with what the agency is trying to do as far as a larger transformation. And so we wanted to kind of start with these and see, what percentage we could kind of capture in those categories. And then we also implemented the ability to capture the estimate of the quantitative savings associated with the success. And for this, we worked with our chief financial office, the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, to identify ranges of hours saved, and also dollars saved, and FTE. And so basically we can go in and try to estimate what that might be. So you might say, well, we have contracting officer representatives and we've got 20 of them. And this task used to take 30 minutes and now it takes 10 minutes, right? So we've decreased the time by 20 minutes times 20 people times four of these actions per month or something like that. So you can start to see how you get to a quantitative estimate. We've stressed that this is not a budgeting exercise or anything. This is kind of taking a guess at where the savings are. And so what we do is every time a success story is entered, at the end of every quarter, the innovation program manager sends a quarterly report to the office to estimate the savings for the submissions, with process improvement as the primary benefit. So we're focusing in quantitatively on one of the three qualitative types of innovations. In this case, process improvement. The idea being that with process improvement, you should hopefully see some type of efficiency gain, right? And this is just being tested as a pilot. We provide a guidance to all the offices. We then enter the savings into idea scale, and we display those savings on our innovation dashboard. If the quantification pilot goes well in 2021, we'll look to expand it. So finally, kind of summing up what we've accomplished in the first year is, well, first of all, we had our launch on the 18th of June of 2020. We've created the guidance and rewards for rewards and recognition. We actually developed a dashboard, and I can show you what that looks like in just a minute. We got to about 70% agency usage. Now, this is, just if you log in, you've been counted as basically using idea scale. And so we've gotten around 70%. We've had 35 crowdsourcing campaigns, which I'm thrilled about. I think that's well beyond what we had imagined in a year. We hired 2 full-time staff to manage the program. We've added new features, which I talked to you about, the innovation in progress, things like that. We actually held a 1-year innovation celebration where we celebrated all the hard work that we've done over the last year. We also used it as an opportunity to put out more training videos and to highlight success stories. We've gathered a whopping 508 success stories, and we've developed a process to measure innovation benefits and savings. And so I will just quickly go to this dashboard so that you guys can kind of take a look. We developed it in Power BI right from the Excel files that you can export from Idea Scale. You can see, you know, we looked to do total activity over time. We've done participation by office. We've now got sort of our benefits and savings page that we're working on. And so then we have some normalized participation. But overall, it's available to the entire agency, so everyone can see it. Anybody who's interested can go in there and see what's happening in innovation. And, you know, it makes it very transparent. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open it up for questions because I just gave you guys a whole lot of information.
Thank you so much, Amy. Like, very, very helpful. I have to say that as you were going through it, like, I kept on trying to, like, I keep a list of questions that I want to ask, but I would like write down a question and then you would answer it. Like, I would be like, what are the 3 qualitative benefits? And then you would tell me. And I was like, why only 3? And then you told me. And then I wanted, it's like, can we see the dashboard? And then you showed me. So I didn't have as many questions as I usually have, but I do have a few that were queued up from the audience. So one of the folks was talking about how important they believe nuclear energy is in terms of forging a sustainable future, and asking if one of the like innovative problem solving categories is that you're trying to get new ways to get the industry and the population to embrace the power of nuclear, even though you're a regulatory agency. So whether that's it or not, I am curious as to the types of challenges that you've launched of those 35 that have gone live so far.
Sure. So to answer your first question, so our mission is to protect people in the environment. And so it's really a safety mission. So we are not in sort of the business of promotion of nuclear power. That's actually the Department of Energy. So we wouldn't have anything around that. That would be something that, you know, DOE would be doing if they, you know, were doing something like this. So the answer to that is no. As far as the challenge campaigns, we have had everything you can imagine. We have had really kind of broad things like how can we better use agile teams and what types of agile teams should we be using. We've had highly technical questions around sort of, and I'm going to get this wrong, but it's around like geological surveys and sort of some of the challenges associated with that. I can't even really describe it to you because it's very highly technical. We've had things around, we have a new one right now around our environmental justice policy. And how might we better do things to incorporate more viewpoints in our environmental justice policy? Are we looking into every data source that we can? We're getting ready to do this sort of flash challenge where we're going to have folks talking about how they have experienced some reverse mentoring. And we're going to use that to collect sort of case studies from people to populate a SharePoint site. And I'm trying to think, let me see some of the other ones. My goodness, we've had so many. You know, people have used it when our commission says to them, hey, we really want you to get more input from employees across the NRC. Instead of now doing sort of a survey with close-ended questions where we can't really sort of get rich conversations, we're using idea scale to get that information. We're using a challenge campaign to do that. So we've had a lot of different case studies.
Yeah, that is quite a range.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that I felt like you were doing a pretty good job of answering was like your engagement strategies. Like, I think the fact that you collaborated with HR and legal to get it built into your management directives, like really powerful. But we had somebody say here, like, what are the strategies that have been most successful to get people to log on to the system? You know, was it doing that? Was it presenting the innovation awards? Was it your innovation ambassadors program? What do you think's been most successful?
So, oh gosh, I don't know about most successful, but I will tell you it is like a multi-pronged approach. So, you know, we've asked our EDO to put out messages when we're going to have an agency-wide campaign where she kind of says, hey, go in and, you know, provide your voice, right? It's also been incentivizing people by how are the results going to be used? If my idea is going to get into an important paper that's going to go up to our commission, right? That is kind of a big deal. You know, it's also, yeah, absolutely getting people to enter success stories and say, oh, and by the way, like there are all these, you know, high level senior executives who are going to be looking at the finalists of this, and are going to get to really read a lot of the successes out there. This is a great way for people to kind of know what you're doing and advertise the great work that's happening in your office or your branch or at your desktop. We don't limit sort of, I get the question like, well, what do you consider innovation? It's not about what I consider innovation. What do you consider innovation? If you think it's innovative and it's kind of changed the way you work and improved things, then it's innovative. It's an innovation. And you can put that in our success gallery. We don't have limitations around that.
We had one person who wanted to know more about the metrics. One person was asking, so you've got, I love that you have that capture at the end for the success stories so that you can actually track the value of these things over time. But I think somebody was asking, is there any sort of like verification or secondary, more rigorous approach to that?
Well, I mean, what we're doing is, right, we actually send it to each of the offices and then they work with the innovators to determine sort of what type of savings they've seen. And so, it's not just sort of the innovator themselves guessing at what it might be, right? And we also made it so that we're only doing this for the successes. So the things that have actually been implemented where we have a little runtime to base it off of. And so that's how we're going about estimating it. So, if you're saying, is there a way to sort of objectively verify that? I think we're getting as close to that as we can.
Totally. And I also had a question here about is time savings the primary way that you measure ROI, or do you measure any other quantitative forms like workplace engagement or, just what else do you do for quantitative?
Yeah. So I think that, those qualitative categories, so the enhanced decision making, enhancing our culture and process improvement are kind of capturing those different types of improvements. And then as far as the quantitative, that's why we kind of limited that to the process improvement stuff where we expect there to be quantitative associated with it. And we could get to the quantitative estimate, but we're also still collecting all of those things that enhance us in other ways.
Somebody wanted to know if you ever allow for anonymous idea submission.
So let me tell you, this comes up about every 3 months in our program. We don't. And here's why. We did a lot of research. We wrote up a whole report and we looked at best practices across agencies. We looked in the academic and applied literature. And what it really says is not allowing anonymity really encourages civility and ownership. And what we found in previous sort of iterations of our program is when you allow anonymous ideas, a lot of times they come in and unfortunately they're more complaints than they are fully baked. Here's the challenge that I see and here's a solution that I'm offering. Also, we wanted to encourage when people do submit an idea that they are, or a comment, even more importantly, that they're kind of owning what they're putting out there and they're owning what they're saying to other people. And I think that really does encourage more civility.
And that they get credit for it too, for these successes that they're having. And one of the things that we say to people, I mean, we've always had anonymous submission as part of Idea Scale, but we say, that's something to use, with restraint on maybe campaigns that are like about diversity, where people might feel very, exposed to talk about those things, and anonymity might help. But for the most part, that having a person linked to a profile does encourage good behavior on the internet.
Yes. And if someone really wanted to submit something anonymously, they could submit it through one of the system administrators, and we would put it in and it would show up kind of as submitted by moderator.
We have another question here too about this idea of hustle. It was something I was sort of wondering. She says, in my org, we're having a difficult time getting people to come up with ways to use Idea Scale. And I had sort of a similar question. I know that you've got a few different ways that you were looking to find problems, like following up to surveys or finding people who are running focus groups. What are the most meaningful ways that you've gotten for people to run challenges on the platform?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think, I think what kind of ends up happening is we run a challenge campaign, right? And someone has success, and then it ends up kind of being word of mouth, right? They say, oh, we used this really successfully and it was great. The other thing though that I will tell you that has really helped us is we actually have some agency metrics where the agency is looking at whether or not how many campaigns each office has run, and looking at how many success stories have been submitted by each office. And so we're actually tracking those things as their engagement with innovation. And so that kind of keeps it at the forefront of management's mind. And so they're like, whereas maybe they'd go more of a traditional route, they might now say, why don't you think about a challenge campaign? Why don't you consider using it that way?
Right. I think it's another great way that you're finding ways to embed it in just how you get work done by tracking all of that, reporting on it.
So I'm glad that you said that, because the way that we've really presented this and what I try to constantly drive home is, we got a lot of comments like, well, this is just one more new thing for me to learn. This is just another technology that we need to learn. And we're like, no, this is another tool in your toolbox. Remember how you used to have to set up interviews or focus groups with all these people and get on their calendars and do it at a particular time, and it's impossible. And then you don't know if you actually even have a good sample, or if you're just kind of choosing people that you like or whatever. Well, this eliminates all of that. You don't have to get on anybody's calendar. You just set up the challenge campaign, you send it out and say, please participate. And it's open 24/7. They're going to participate when they can, right? And you're going to get the people who are truly invested in whatever you're talking about responding to you.
We got an interesting question too, talking about the outputs of the system. Do you think that you're getting more incremental or radical innovation from the ideas and success stories so far?
So gosh, this is always hard for me because, first of all, let's put this in context. We're a regulatory agency, right? There's only so radical that we can get. So you don't want us to be radical, right? Because we have a safety mission. And so I would say, like, we're not going to be sort of the cutting edge developing new consumer products. But I would say in terms of, size of innovations, we've had things, and it all depends on like what you consider sort of revolutionary, right? For some people, revolutionary can be like, we found a way to be able to use wireless earbuds, like in my day-to-day job. For some people, that's like, that has changed my world. I can move around, I can talk while I'm, so, I think it kind of just depends, but we have definitely kind of seen the gamut of things. I would say that you're always going to get more of the incremental and smaller innovations, right? Because they're more accessible. They're usually faster. They don't take as many resources. They don't take as much time. Radical innovation and big innovations take time and money and planning. And so sometimes, we're only a year into our program.
I mean, that's what they say for most of these programs, is that it's about 70% or so incremental, 20 adjacent, and then 10% that's disruptive or transformative innovation. And like you said, I think disruption, radical is in the eye of the beholder.
Right. What is transformative? Are you transforming the agency, or are you transforming, Jane or Joe's, daily work life?
Right.
There's different definitions of transformative.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your program with us, Amy. I think I love that you've got the lessons still in progress, lessons being learned. I think you've already done some great adjustments in your first year. I can't wait to see what year 2 brings. And thank you everyone for joining. We'll be sending out the link in the next couple of days. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you can direct them to me or Amy, and we'll see you all online.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Bye.